Welcome to this session, session number 5, the cost of legislative experimentation when the access rule no longer matches the purpose. A boundary can keep its name while losing its meaning. The sign can still say female, the policy can still say women, the institution can still claim protection. But the deeper question remains, what rule actually governs access? Because once the access rule changes, the boundary changes with it. In this outline, this episode, I'm going to examine the hidden rewrite. Not the rewrite of a word, the rewrite of a function. If a boundary was created because biological sex mattered, but access is later governed by gender identity, then the boundary has not merely been adjusted, it has been functionally transformed. And that's the collision many women are trying to name. A female-only space exists for a reason: privacy, safety, fairness, trauma recovery, female association, bodily dignity, self-debased participation. These are not decorative purposes. They are the reasons the boundaries exist. But if the actual rule no longer follows these reasons, the boundary begins operating differently. A women's sport category may still be called women's sport, but if biological sex no longer governs entry, that category no longer performs the same protective function. A woman's refuge may still be called a woman's refuge, but if access is no longer governed by the sex-based reason the refuge exists, women may no longer experience the same recovery certainty. A female-only service may still use female language. But if the operating rule changes beneath the label, the women relying on that service are forced to ask whether the boundary still means what they believe it meant. So this is where public confusion intensifies. The institution says the protection remains. The woman asks, then why can't I rely on it? The law says the category still exists. The woman asks, then why does defending it require legal risk? The problem's not merely access. The problem is functional rewriting, which happened in 2013. And when the characteristic governing entry no longer matches the characteristic that created the need for the boundary, that category becomes unstable. And women are then asked to trust a boundary that they may no longer be governed by the reason it was built. And that produces hesitation, not because women are confused about privacy, not because women are confused about safety, not because women are confused about sex, but because the law's operating rule has become catastrophic. And once the operating rule becomes catastrophic, trust will collapse. So the deepest danger is not always that a boundary disappears openly. Sometimes the boundary remains visible while its governing rule changes underneath. And that's more destabilizing, because women are told that protection still exists while experiencing uncertainty about whether it still functions. And a female boundary that's no longer governed by female reason, the reason it was created for, a female boundary that is no longer governed by the female reason it was created for, has not been preserved. It has been rewritten. And once that rewrite occurs, the question becomes unavoidable. Who is the boundary really protecting now? And I'll see you in the next episode.